What's up, everyone? Welcome to this Smite ranked tier list. So this is going to be a first for me. Usually when I make tier lists, I make it revolving around pro play, but this one's going to be focused specifically on ranked. And just to let you know, I do play a little bit of ranked, not that much. It's not like I'm out there grinding every day, but I do watch pros stream and some other players stream ranked. So I do have a pretty good idea of where picks and bans are at. And in this tier list, it's going to be very different from a pro tier list because the pros do focus a lot on the meta. At least the tiers are a little bit more focused. Whereas in ranked, you can kind of stretch out what your picks are. You can, pick a god that's maybe not super meta, but if you do really well with it, you can absolutely play it. And so we're going to kind of be a little bit looser with this tier list, and some of the picks are going to be very different than pros, just because low-level players or lower-level players in ranked may not be able to counter like an Anubis or a Kukulkan, like these gods that are generally considered to have pretty big weaknesses, but in ranked will actually do well if they're put in the right hands. So we're going to focus on the pick and ban rate, what I've seen as far as picks and bans, and also we're going to be talking about their ability to pub stomp. That's actually a huge part of ranked because in most games you have one or two characters that will just carry like super hard. That's kind of like how the snowballing meta works right now. That's how it's always been, but the snowballing is very, very big part of the meta at the moment. So we're gonna talk about gods that you can carry with and that you can just pub stomp with. So those are the kind of prerequisites for this ranked tier list. And with that, we will get into it. Agni is our first god. I think Agni deserves to be right in the A tier for now. Doesn't get picked too much in ranked as far as I've seen, but again, if he gets a good lead, he can do very well. He doesn't do that much damage in terms of, or in comparison to other mages, but he can do fine, and he has a pretty good mid game, I think. That's where he shines, so he'll be in the A tier. Amu's and Cab, I'll put in the, if I can grab him, I'll put him in the A minus tier. Usually he would be a B god for me, but I think in ranked, and again, this kind of spans across golds, even silver, not so much bronze because bronze is just a mess, but gold, silver, up to plat, diamond, it's going to include all of it. I think AMC can actually do well in most of those leagues, even up into like platinum or diamond, you could get away with an AMC. Maybe diamond might be a little tricky, but AMC has really good wave clear, very strong early game, and he can carry if you let him get a huge lead. So he goes in A minus for me. Apwash is going to go into the C tier. I have not seen Apwash pick very much. Not only that, but if he does get picked, he will probably feed. It doesn't really matter who plays him. So he's going to be in the C tier for me. I don't see him being having any pub stomping ability like whatsoever. Amaterasu, I will put in A plus. I think that she's one of those characters that can be tricky to play. She really usually falls behind early if you if you don't play her a certain way. You kind of have to play safe, and then into the late game she does very well. Has pretty good team fighting ability, so that's good for her. So I think she's very strong soul laner, but kind of tricky to play in the early game. So on her for me is going to be A tier. He's one of those hunters that actually isn't being played very much in ranked. Can be played, has a good early game, has pen in his passive. He has one of the highest damaging level 5 ultimates. Once he gets into late game, that ultimate does fall off, but at level 5, once he gets that ult up, he can just do so much damage, and it really helps him get a good lead going. Anubis. So Anubis usually would be in like the poop trash tier right over here, and I'm going to put him in A tier because in ranked, Anubis can absolutely get a lead, can just pub stomp all over the place, and just has so much damage that it kind of warrants playing him, because he does have some very big weaknesses, but if you can just do damage and get some kills early, like, you can do pretty well. So Anubis is actually very viable in ranked at the moment. Ao Kuang, for me, is going to be in the B tier for ranked. He is, not only does he have a bad early game, but even pros don't play him because, you can, if you're a pro and you're playing a late game god, you can do it the right way so that you get big late game. But even Ao Kuang has just so much trouble clearing early. He has the worst clear of like any assassin, really. So very tricky to play. And even in the best hands right now in ranked, he probably won't do super great. Unless you just get some key ultimates at like level 5, then you might be okay. For me is probably going to be in the C tier with Opwash. I see her sometimes in like the soul lane or maybe in mid as well, but she really doesn't have any real place. The healing is good, but there's so much anti-heal going on right now with items. Most Guardians are picking up Pestilence either third or fourth. And if not a Guardian, then Soul Laners might build it. A lot of Hunters will build Brawler's Beatstick, or Assassins might build that item. If you're a mage, you can build Divine Ruin. So there's just a lot of anti-heal to counter Aphrodite. And her heal is very good. It's single target, but it doesn't really warrant playing her, because she will probably get wrecked. Apollo is good. I don't see him that often in ranked. I think he has very good split pushing potential, and split pushing in ranked is absolutely huge because usually when someone split pushes, it either goes unnoticed or it's not like countered very well. So he can split push super well and then just ult right out to get into a team fight. So he has good potential, but not being picked or banned that often. Actually, never gets banned. Arachne for me is actually like D tier. Either D or C. She's probably one of the worst. I'll put her in C because you could potentially get big with her early game and do okay, but her team fighting is atrocious. She really doesn't have. She has lockdown, but it's very single target. If she gets caught into a team fight, she's gonna die. She can ult out, but then she's wasted her ult. So and her mid to late game damage doesn't warrant playing her. I think her spiders probably should get some scaling and a little bit of a buff to help her out, but she's really just kind of useless in Conquest. Ares is good. You can absolutely play him in ranked. The ult is very, very good for wasting beads, and he has good pressure. He's one of those guardians that can carry. And when I talk about guardians and support gods in this tier list, I will not be considering how much they can carry because most of them cannot carry, but Ares can do that. He can get early kills, get a lot of early pressure. If you hit all three of his chains and then follow it up with his flames, he just does an insane amount of damage, can like half health someone. So is pretty good. You can definitely play him. Not the best guardian though. Artemis, going to be down here in C tier. I have not seen a good Artemis in ranked in a long time. And this will probably go throughout all of the leagues. I don't think that it matters if you're in bronze or if you're in like diamond. You probably shouldn't be playing Artemis. Early game's really bad. You will likely you'll have to farm and lane the whole time, and you can't really go into team fights too much. So you're just gonna have a lot of trouble. And your late game is very good, but doesn't really warrant playing her because she just gets caught out too easily. Athena is actually going to be in the A tier for me. I don't see Athena's picked too much in ranked at the moment. There are so many other Guardians that are getting picked. There's two in particular that I'm thinking about that get picked all the time. And Athena is kind of like fifth or sixth. You know, she's really not in the minds of support players. They don't really think about picking her that much. She has very good taunt and her ultimate is very good, but her level 1 clear is really not that good, and she can get in trouble with that. So she's good, you can play her, but she's not like the top in ranked right now. Awilix is very tricky because usually when I've seen a Awilix in ranked, she carries pretty hard. Now this might lean towards maybe the gold league, you know, bronze not so much, silver not so much Awilix, but like gold, platinum, you might get some pretty strong Awilix players in those leagues who can just carry, like they'll go like 20-0. Like there's some crazy Awilix players out there. So she does do a lot of damage, but she's not like the best pick, and she's not picked that often. So she can absolutely carry, but her pick and ban rate is not amazing, and I don't know. She's definitely just a pretty good assassin at the moment. Bacchus, I think, is pretty good in ranked. He has troubles with mana, but he can absolutely be played and do very well. The damage is huge, and in ranked, you can go some cheese boots. You can go into like pen boots. We can go to mana CDR boots if you want to, and that will just make him get his abilities much more often. And if you do pen boots, he can absolutely carry. Like he's one of those guardians that can carry, kind of like Ares. Bakasura. So Bakasura is D tier for me. I think that in the next patch, 4.13, he's going to get a buff. So we'll see how that goes. Right now, he just has no potential. He has 0 lockdown, and he doesn't have any way to clear the lane, the wave at level 1. So even level 3, he doesn't really have good lane clear. So very tough for him to get farm, to get a lead, and he has to get a lead, because if not, he's just going to die a lot. So really just a useless character in ranked right now. I not only do I not see him picked, but if he does get picked, he does not do well. Bastet is A minus. I don't think I see Bastet very often. She's definitely on the lower end of assassins in ranked. She is one of those characters that can pub stomp. At level, she's kind of like the on her of assassins, because her level 5 ult is probably one of the better ones in the game, because at level 5 you're going to be diving tower against this very squishy mage who does not have any build up yet and has no real way to kill the cats. So that can really be very good. And so against squishies or other hunters and stuff, the ultimate can pretty much guarantee a kill. But other than that, her split pushing isn't very good anymore, and she's just not picked very often. Bellona's S plus just destroys in ranked every time. Every time you pick in a Bellona, you kind of get this like warm feeling that like, oh, the solo lane should be okay. That's how I look at Bellona. Like whenever I'm trying to build a comp for ranked and I see someone pick Bellona in the solo lane, I feel good, because I know that even let's say the player isn't very strong, I know that they're using a god that can just destroy in lane, can outclear their opponent, can get pressure, and then carry that into the late game, and is still very, very strong in the late game. Probably one of the best characters in the game right now, probably top 3 for me. I don't know who else I'd exactly put in that top 3, but she's one of the best characters in the game, and I think will likely get nerfed in 4.13. We will see. Kabrakin is not picked very often. There's no reason to pick him in the solo lane, mainly because you can clear just fine with Bellona, and Bellona has the sustain with Death Toll that Kabrakin doesn't have. The only thing that really has potential for Kabrakin is that he is a magical character who usually gets played in the solo lane, which kind of screws up the builds of the other soul laner. But like I said, soul laners can build Pestilence now if they want to. So if you're playing against Kabrakin and you have a healer, or there's healing on your team somewhere, that Bellona or soul laner can just build anti-heal, and she has the magical defense, and then they also have the anti-heal. So really there's no reason to pick Kabrakin. Xing Chen, same thing. I don't think there's any real reason to pick him right now. Camazotz is good. In ranked, he's actually not picked too much. There was a period where he was getting picked. I think he's very strong. He does a lot of damage, especially like his early clear is pretty good, and then going into the mid to late game, his damage does get pretty strong. He has another very strong level 5 ultimate, because as I said, if you have a mage who's sitting in their tower at level 5, then you can just dive with Camazotz and get a kill like right away, because the mage cannot do anything to defend against that. And that's why that's one of the main reasons why I think he's very good. And the sustain is very strong as well. Kronos is probably S minus for me. Kronos used to be one of the top picks. He does get bans every now and then, but it's much, much less than it used to be. He's not really the top ban anymore. If he gets banned in the first round, I'm usually surprised, because there are other bans that are kind of preferred at the moment. That being said, he still gets picked a good amount, still gets banned, but I don't think just destroys as much as he used to, which is good. He's in a better place. He's still strong, but is not like the craziest character anymore. And but he can carry. He can definitely carry in ranked. So he has a potential. I think S minus is fair. Shock. Honestly, Shock is going to be A minus for me. I think he is probably a solid A character if you're talking about like pro play. But in ranked, I don't see him winning many matchups. And as I said, if you're talking about Bellona, Osiris, or Raven, these soul laners who would just get into Shock's face and kind of mess his day up, he will probably struggle. And he's not as much win lane, lose game anymore. He's more of like, maybe you win lane, maybe you do okay the rest of the game. That's why he's more in the middle now. But I think he also doesn't get picked very often. He's just not a top pick, and I don't see why anyone would prefer him unless they're really good with him. Chunga still gets picked quite a bit in ranked. I think she's fine. I think mid lane's her best spot. I do see her in solo quite a bit. She's not played in jungle anymore, but every now and then I'll see a Chang'e solo do well. I don't like it because I prefer to have a frontliner solo laner, but she can be played. Mid lane is where I think she shines the best. She just has to wait out that early game, and then late game the healing's good. The only thing is the anti-heal does kind of shut her down a little bit, but she's very mobile, and the ult is an amazing setup, so she's pretty good. Chiron, B. There's no Chirons in ranked, literally zero. I don't remember the last time I played against one, and as I said, if with other characters, if he does get picked, he doesn't carry. Chiron is not a pub stomping character whatsoever. He doesn't really have the damage for it. He doesn't have the late game for it. He's just kind of in the middle of as far as like damage and carrying goes. So he's not the best ranked player character. Kronos, I think in the right hands can do well. He's getting played a lot. In a pro tier list, I'd put Kronos in probably A plus, but I think in ranked you have to be a little bit more skilled, a little bit more careful with him. In the mid lane is where he belongs at the moment. But his clear is not great. You have to be very careful. It's kind of like the Amaterasu of mids in that respect, where he can do very well late game, but you have to be careful with him early. And you also have to be very skilled mechanically to play him. So he's fine. If you have a good Kronos, like I said, this is kind of more like go up gold, platinum, diamond. Those kind of leagues will have the better Kronoses. Cucullin, so Cucullin's still pretty new, and I think with the last patch you can play him in a ranked, but I actually haven't played any ranked since the last patch, so it's tough to say. And of course, you know, since the last patch came out, I should probably consider the last patch as far as ranked picks, but I don't think that patch was super influential. There were very little amounts of changes as far as god balance and item changes, so I think the meta hasn't changed too much because of that patch. But Cucullin in ranked, because he's not played much, I don't really want to place him right now. I will leave him in A, but just keep in mind that I don't really want to place him. I actually think Cucullin in ranked probably isn't very good, because you have to know how to get his passive at the right time, which is very tough to do, and you have to use his ultimate, his passive correctly. Once you get into that passive form, you have to make sure that you use your abilities well, because that's how he's going to get a lot of his kills. His damage is just okay. His wave clear is pretty good, but I don't know. I don't think he wins many matchups at the moment, to be quite honest. Cupid in rank can be fine. I don't see him very often. Again, anti-heal can kind of shut him down. The biggest thing that Cupid does is shut down characters with escapes. And that's something that ranked players probably don't think about too often. There aren't many times where maybe there's a comp with, all leaps on it, I don't think a ranked player's like, oh, I should play Cupid to counter that. That doesn't happen very often. So, but he can do pretty well. His team fighting is where he shines. Early game, he's okay. He kind of plays passively early. So you just have to keep that in mind, but he can be fine in ranked, but he's not picked very often, to be quite honest. Dodgy is still pretty new. Let me tell you, Dodgy's damage is insane now. Her damage is ridiculous with the burning and all the stacking dots. She really just does a lot of damage now. In ranked, I think she's actually becoming more of a presence. So I could see her being A plus at the moment in ranked. It's still very early for her. Like Cucullin is the most recent god, but I think Dodgy has some potential in ranked to do very well. She just does the buffs she got were, pretty good, and her damage is very, very good now and very strong. So I could see her being A plus if you I don't know, it kind of depends on how well you play her. Erlong doesn't get played very much in ranked. Can do okay in the soul lane. I wouldn't play him support. You could play him jungle if you wanted to. In fact, let's say you have like a Chang'e solo. You could definitely then pick an Erlong in the jungle, and that would be a pretty good comp, because you have the frontliner jungle plus the squishy soul laner. You still have a front line, but you can also get the healing as well. So I could see that working. The other thing is his ult does get shut down a bit because of anti-heal. So, but he's good. He can be one of those like in-your-face characters, which I like. Fafnir, so Fafnir just got a couple of nerfs. He still gets picked quite a bit. I don't think he's the best support anymore. And in fact, there's two other guardians that I would definitely prefer over him. Maybe 3 or so. No, there might be 3 or 4 that actually I might prefer over him in ranked. So, his wave clear is not very good anymore. He has the ability to pub stomp. He can absolutely carry. If you go pen boots on him, you can wreck in your ult form. So he's still very strong. I just don't think he's the top pick at the moment. I don't know. People aren't preferring him as much anymore. Fenrir is fine in ranked. Again, it's kind of a preference pick since he has been in the meta for a pretty long time. So if you see a Fenrir come up, it's usually because that player likes Fenrir, and so they prefer to play him, and that's a good thing, because if you have a player who knows what they're doing with Fenrir, they can absolutely carry, and he can totally pub stomp if he's in the right hands. Freya is not getting picked at all, so she's B for me. I don't think that there's any reason to pick her. The magical ADCs are just not good in this meta. There's so many other hunters right now who have better level 1 clear. They can carry harder. They they deal physical damage, which is it's just a lot better to have in a hunter role, at least at the moment. So like, she can carry late game, but in ranked, you're probably gonna die a couple times before you get there, unless you're like super super safe. Ganesh for me is going to be S plus along with Bologna. He is the 100% the top pick in ranked. I Every time that there is, if there's a Guardian that's open, and let's say Ganesh is open in a ranked match, 9 times out of 10 he's gonna be like the pick, and that's if he's not banned. If he's not banned in the first round and the second round, then he's most likely going to be picked like after that. And in fact, let's say you're not the one who's picking and banning, more often than not, the person who is will ask other people on their team if they want Ganesh, which shows that how much strength he has in the rank scene right now. He has awesome clear, very good team fighting. The ult is actually very good in ranked, I think. A lot of players don't know how to play around it, and it does offer that zoning that you desperately need. And I think the zoning of his ultimate is a little underrated, to be honest. It doesn't do too much damage, but you can still use it to get objectives if you want to. It doesn't do that much damage to objectives anymore, but you can still use it for that if you need to. And he just has so much setup, and the silence is pretty broken. It's kind of quietly broken, and I prefer. I'm a support main, and I play Ganesh almost every time if he's available. So yeah, and he's hard to counter too. There's not really much that counters a Ganesh. You can cancel out his silence if you want to, but that you can only do it if you're not silenced. So it's kind of tough to cancel that ability. Geb. So Geb is going to be in the S tier for me. Geb is probably my second favorite Guardian in the meta right now, at least in ranked. I think Geb has, for some reason, people didn't like Geb because of his level 1 clear, but I think he has so much zoning potential with his second ability, the Shockwave, and now really level 3 is really what you got to worry about. If you don't have good clear level 3, then you're going to be in trouble. And Geb doesn't. Geb has very strong level 3 clear with the Shockwave and the rollout. They can do a lot of damage to the wave, and I think the zoning with the two is very good. And that's something you have to think about. That's another, like, if you think about Khepri, Khepri has the 2, which zones very well, and Geb's Shockwave does pretty much the same thing. You can just pressure people out by zoning with that ability, and then you can kind of walk up, and you can shield yourself if you need to kind of take the damage from the minion wave, which allows you to just kind of stand in front of it and again, zone the enemy back at like level 3. So that then translates into his awesome mid to late game. His team fighting is amazing. It's just getting him there that's tough. But I think it's actually not too hard to get him there now, and the Geb shield is also pretty broken. So he's one of my favorite supports in the meta. If Ganesh is banned or someone else has picked it, I usually look towards Geb. Guan Yu is actually not good right now. Doesn't have enough lane clear to warrant his late game, and anti-heal just shuts him down. It's as simple as that. If you have anti-heal, you're going to shut down a Guan Yu. So, like, if you look at other characters with bad clear, there's usually another positive that they have, which kind of warrants it. So it's like, oh, I don't have bad clear, but my late game is going to be amazing, so it doesn't matter as much. Guan Yu doesn't have that anymore. It used to be the healing that was his big positive, but the healing doesn't matter anymore because you can just have anti-heal and it shuts it down. So He's not good. Probably one of the worst soul laners at the moment. Hades, honestly, if you see a Hades in ranked, he's likely gonna pub stomp if they're good with Hades. Hades can be very strong, very pretty good team fighting, and the sustain he has from the detonate of his three is also very good. So I think he's fine. Not the preferred pick, and I don't see him too often, but every now and then you'll see a Hades destroy. So he can definitely be picked. Hebo never gets picked. Unfortunately, he's going to be in the B tier for me. Just, doesn't get picked. In ranked, it's kind of one of those things where maybe you can pick him in Pub Stomp, but it's a huge risk. You're just risking so much. I do think that the buff he just got is pretty good. Is it enough to make him viable? Not really. I don't think ranked players are going to take advantage of that casting time buff that they gave him. So he's B. I never see him. Hell is also B for me. I all the time I hear about players who I play Hell and ranked all the time and I wreck with her, and that's great. So you can do that if you want to, but just know that not many players can do that. She is very easy to kill. Doesn't have a great escape. She has movement speed, which is really her only means of escaping. She has the cleanse, which I guess is kind of like an escape, but not really. Her clear is not good. The healing is fine, but again, anti-heal kind of shuts it down. So that's even less. That's even more of a reason not to pick her because of anti-heal. Herc is going to be up here for me. I think Herc is going to be S minus. Definitely one of the top picks. If let's say Bellona's gone, Osiris is gone, people usually look towards Herc, and I think Herc just bullies in lane. It's very hard to kill him. Anti-heal does hurt his late game a little bit, but his early game is super strong. He has very good wave clear and just, again, is a big bully in lane. So if you're good with Herc and you play ranked, you can just carry most games because he's very scared to lane against, and again, he's almost impossible to kill. Hu Yi is going to be in the S tier for me in ranked. I see Hu Yis all the time, and most of the time it's someone who likes Hu Yi a lot. There was a time in Season 3 when Hu Yi was like the best hunter ever, and I think he's almost back at that point. His clear is fine. If you can hit your ricochets, that's great. His ultimate is the biggest thing for me. I know people always say, if you can get those double bounces, triple bounces, that's what makes Hu Yi good. I think the ultimate in ranked is huge. Players don't know how to play around the ult very well, and it's great objective control. It's great zoning. It does a lot of damage. If you use the mark, it'll slow. The ult is just a very, big circles in Smite are very helpful in ranked. Let me tell you, if you have Poseidon in ranked and you have a big circle, it just helps you. Because players can't play around it very much. If you have Aegis and you're playing against Poseidon, a lot of ranked players might not be quick enough to hit that Aegis key before the ult goes off. So you have to consider that, if you have a big circle, it does give you a pretty good advantage. So yeah, Hu Yi players in general in ranked are, usually they like Hu Yi, which means that they're good with them. And I don't know, I just like him a lot right now. I think he's one of the better hunters in ranked. Hunbats, I'll put in A+. You see him every now and then. He did get a little bit of a nerf like 5 patches ago maybe, or 4 patches ago. But still very good, a lot of control. Again, another big circle. This is something that the Xbox meta talks about a lot. At least they used to. I don't really know anything about the Xbox meta. But they used to talk about big circles in Xbox is very good because, it's harder to run away from that stuff and to get out of it because you're using a controller instead of a mouse and keyboard. Same with Hunbats, if you don't have beads, the ult he's probably going to take you down with the ult. He doesn't do that much damage besides in the rest of his kit, but he can combo very well. So that's why I think he's A+. Isis is tricky. I do see Isis a lot, but honestly, I don't see Isis. I usually don't see Isis's carry very often. They're usually more of a role player. The ultimate is good for, again, team fights and objective control. If you get a good ult and then, let's say you get someone else to use their ult while they're standing in the circle and you pop it, that's going to be doing a lot of damage. So the ult has a lot of potential. The early clear is great. That's really why you would pick her, because of the early clear and the pressure, but she's not like a pub stompy character, at least not in my opinion, in ranked. Maybe higher level she could be, but most ISIS players I see in ranked don't actually do very well. Izanami is not picked very often at all. I think she's good with the wave clear, but I guess she's easily countered with her dash. Does have that long casting delay, but you never see her. I remember the beginning of the season, she was top pick every game, like picking Izanami, we need Izanami. And now that doesn't really happen, and it's starting to rain in my house, so hopefully you guys, that won't interrupt the sound. I don't even know if you can hear it. But yeah, Izanami, I think has potential, but just isn't popular. Really never gets picked ever. Janice, I think, is fine. You'll see Janice every now and then in ranked. Janice is one of those characters that you have to kind of know how he works. And there are some mids that just play Janice all the time. They do very, very well with him. He can totally carry if he's in the right hands. But the early wave clear is tough. And if you're not a Janice player, you probably don't want to pick him. Because if you don't know how to use his kit very well, you're probably going to just feed your brains out. So he's hit or miss for me. Of course, the ultimate is great, but you know, he's fine. Jingwei doesn't get picked ever. I'm gonna put him in B tier because she literally does not get picked ever, and I think she's fine. I think like her wave clear is okay. She's very safe. She has good escape, but she doesn't do anything. Like she really just does nothing. She just runs away. So I don't see why you would prefer her over other characters. Um, it doesn't make sense. And the passive is good, but it doesn't warrant playing her, in my opinion. Kali is interesting. Honestly, she's another one of those characters that if it's someone who really is good with Kali, they'll carry. Like it's almost guaranteed that they will. But I don't see her very often, and her early game is really not very good. I think she needs some kind of buff, to be honest with you. She's kind of in this weird dead zone of Smite where it's like she's not on anybody's radar. No one thinks about playing Kali, which is, just hurts her, and it's why I'm going to put her on A minus. But again, if you love Kali, you can totally carry with her. Khepri, I will put in S minus, to be honest with you. I think he's up there above Fafnir. I would prefer to have a Khepri on my team than a Fafnir at the moment. Now, people may disagree with that because Fafnir has just got so much potential with his ultimate. That's really why he is good, and the coerce in team fights is very strong. But I would absolutely prefer Khepri's lane clear. I would prefer that ultimate. I would prefer Khepri's setup. I think the abduct is way better setup than Fafnir's. The root is also a very good long range setup. So he's safer in my opinion than Fafnir. Is a backliner, and he can absolutely be killed. He's very easy to kill, but honestly, if you play him the right way, he's safe. If you're making stupid plucks, you're diving into tower at like level 3, making a dumb pluck, then yeah, you're gonna die and it's gonna be easy to kill him. But good Khepri's play him kind of like an assassin. You find your target that you want to abduct, you root them, you abduct them, and then they're dead. So you have to know how to play him. He does kind of have that backlining thing going on, so you have to pick a comp that fits that. But the ultimate is great. It's very, very strong. Kukulkan, honestly, I'm going to put Kukulkan in A minus. Just off the fact that ranked players are way more likely to miss Kukulkan ults than pro players. And for some reason, I don't know what this is, but there's so many people who I see play Kukulkan, and they just ult randomly, which you can do sometimes if you think you're going to hit it. But really, you should wait for some kind of CC before you ult. You can use your slow if you want to ult, but wait for your support to set you up, or let's say you have a jungler who has CC like a Thor. Wait for the CC and then ult. It's just way safer. You're more likely to hit it, and yeah, I don't know why, but there are a lot of players who just throw it out willy-nilly, and it like misses half the time. So he's fine. Kumbhakarna, one of the worst. Let me put that away. Sorry. Not going to be in C. I'll put him in B tier. One of the worst Guardians right now. Has no push. Even if you're good with this god, you still will probably not have any advantage over the other support. And, he has a pretty good setup. He's very much a peel god with the Mez. very defensive ability, and he can root people. So he does have the CC there, but his wave clear is awful. And there's no reason to pick him. There's just like he has no real advantages throughout the entire game, really. Kuzenbo, if I can get him here. Kuzenbo C tier. Why can't I place him? Okay, one sec. Kuzenbo is gonna go in the C tier. If a Kuzenbo does get picked in ranked, it's usually a troll pick, and this has happened a couple times where they're like, no, check it out. Kuzenbo solo is good, and I'm like, all right, yeah, just prove it to me. And then he loses lane, he dies a couple times, he gets ganked, and he dies, and then he's just kind of there, not doing anything, just doing stupid Kuzenbo things. It's like, wow, I really wish I had a Bellona instead of a Kuzenbo in my solo lane, because Bellona has the clear, she's also tanky, she has way more damage. Like, Bellona does insane amounts of damage, and Kuzenbo does nothing. So, doesn't really do that well in the soul lane. Terrible support character. Yeah. If he does get picked, it's usually a troll pick. Loki, another troll pick that you see quite a bit. I'll put him in A-, just for the fact that maybe there'll be a really good Loki player out there. But generally in ranked, this is what happens. Either someone auto-locks Loki and they're like, oh, I'll play him solo, and then they get wrecked. Or, the person who's picking your banning will just say, like, I'm going to go jungle, and they pick Loki, and then they also feed their brains out. So, usually Loki doesn't do well. Every now and then you can pub stomp with him if the other team is just really bad against countering Lokis. But generally, I just don't see Lokis do very well, but every now and then it'll happen. Medusa. I think Medusa is very good. I will put her in S- along with Chronos. I think those two in ranked are pretty equal. She does have very good wave clear if you get Bluestone on her. Very strong wave clear, insane team fights, does a whole lot of damage if you build Pen and Power on her. And she used to not be a hard carry, but in ranked you can totally just destroy with her in Pub Stomp. Mercury, I actually think Mercury's pretty good in ranked. I'll put him in A tier. He, is hit or miss for sure. Has a lot of setup with him, and he's definitely a late game character. So you have to know how to play Merc, play safe early, and then just farm up, get a couple kills, and late game you'll be huge. So he has that potential, but not the top assassin. Naja is another hit or miss character. So I actually love Naja because of his early wave clear, and I think that he has a purpose throughout all points of the game. He is one of those characters that is great because what you can do in a team fight, you can just, like, if you get blink on him, you can just blink and ult a full health target or full health squishy, and then when they land, your mage or someone with a big ultimate will just clean it up. So you don't have to wait. You don't have to ult low health targets with Naja. You can literally just initiate a team fight with a Naja ult by just blinking in, ulting like the squishiest guy or someone who's feeding or whatever, and just get a kill right away. And then, he has a little trouble because once he ults, he's just stuck in the team fight. But if you build him a little tanky, like, you can definitely just initiate, and then all of a sudden it's 5v4 because you just picked off one of their characters. Neith, I will put in A tier. Neith does get picked every now and then, kind of one of those preferential picks. In the lower end of ranked, you'll see Neith do very well. The upper ranks, people just don't really want to play her because I think most hunters or most ADC players find her boring, which I definitely do. I'm not an ADC player, but I do find her boring. She just has a very simple combo, but she's very safe and can totally do well in ranked. Nemesis, honestly, for some reason, isn't getting picked that much anymore. At least since, she's been very good for a long time. I'll put her in an S- because I do think that she is very strong, but I don't see her. She's definitely getting picked less recently. Never really gets banned. I don't see her banned often. This is one of those characters I think as you go up in leagues, the higher leagues, you'll see a little bit more of Nemesis. But right now, she's kind of lukewarm in rank, to be honest. If she gets picked, she can do very well, but she's just not getting picked. There are other assassins that are just preferred. Nike is not good. Yeah, Nike for me is a B B tier character in ranked. Loses most matchups, and almost any player who knows anything about Smite can cancel a Nike rend. So that kind of just makes her useless in the early levels. Her ult is very good for baiting other abilities. She can jump in and just bait people. But other than that, she doesn't really do much. And again, her wave clear is just bad because it's so easily canceled. And yeah, she doesn't really do too much. Nox is definitely a pub stomp character in ranked. If you're a good Nox, you're gonna destroy. And I see Nox quite a bit now. Actually, I'll put her in A plus. I really think in rank she can absolutely just destroy people. Um, in the upper leagues not as much, but yeah, if you can just hit your combo, you'll do very well with her. Nuwa never gets picked. She's C tier for me. Literally never gets picked. Is a kind of useless character. Doesn't have good wave clear. Has no escape. Her ult is very good. Her late game's pretty good, but doesn't warrant playing her at all. Odin gets picked quite a bit in ranked, especially to counter healers. Um, I'll put him in A tier. I think he's fine. I don't see him as being pub stompy. Maybe a little bit, but not too much. He's more of a setup kind of ult bot character, especially in the late game. Osiris is going to go up here to S plus. He's one of those that gets picked quite a bit now, but you do have to be good with him. If you don't know how to play Osiris, you're probably going to feed. So this is one of my messages that I want to put in this ranked tier list. Osiris is a perfect example of a character who's super meta, but let's say you're a soul laner or you're in the soul lane and you've never played Osiris, don't pick him. Go with what you're comfortable with. It doesn't make sense to pick a character that everyone else is playing and then just feed with them because you don't know what you're doing. So, you know, I'll put him in S plus because he is very, very strong and deserves a nerf. But you don't have to pick him if you don't want to. Like, you can pick a Nike. If, let's say, you love Nike, go ahead and pick her, and if you do well with her, that's great. So ranked is very dependent on it's very dependent. It's subjective. That's the word I'm looking for. It's very subjective. Depending on what your playstyle is or what you want to play, you can do it. Poseidon can totally pub stomp in ranked. And still gets picked quite a good amount. He's not the best pick or preferred pick, but you do see, and ranked players tend to love, again, they love those big circles. I think that's why people like Hu Yi, because he has a big circle ultimate. Who doesn't love that, you know? Kernanos, big circle ultimate. People love it. So, same with Poseidon. People just love to throw out those abilities and just get kills. You will likely get a kill at level 5 with Poseidon. Raw is going to be in the S tier for me. One of the best mid lanes right now. I think should be preferred. Has a pretty good pick rate. Again, I think mid lane is one of those positions right now that it's more preference in ranked. You can kind of do what you want. If there's a god you really like, pick them. But I think Raw is very strong. The healing can be countered, but it is kind of healing that you do outside of team fights. So there are certain items that will not counter that if you're not in range. And he does an insane amount of damage on top of it, so that's pretty crazy. Raijin is D tier with Bakasura. Never gets picked ever. 0 pick rate. In like the history of Season 4, basically. Never gets picked. Does nothing. Does bad damage, bad wave clear. His ult is fine. Doesn't really do enough damage. Yeah, he's one of the worst characters in the game. Rom, S plus. I think Rom is a step above Kernanos and Medusa right now, and Hu Yi. In ranked, you're going to get those tryhards who they're all about rank. All about Rama. They want to be Marvels. They want to go out there and snipe people, and it happens, all the time. Ranked is like it's a big ROM, mess, basically. There's just so many players out there who play ADC who want to get those hot ROM plays, and a lot of them do because, they practice. So Rom is a really strong character, very good, pretty good wave clear as well, and it can just shred late game as well. Rat is fine, doesn't get picked too much. I think Rat has one of the best level 5 ultimates, very similar to Camazotz in that at level 5 you can just dive a mage or a squishy at level 5 and you're basically guaranteed a kill. Then you can dash out and you get a nice little lead going. So I think Rat is good, but is just not preferred right now. Raven's going to go up in the S tier for me. Right up there with Osiris and Bellona, but not quite on the same level. I mean, very close. He bullies in lane. If you get a Bellona versus Raven or Osiris versus Raven, or Osiris versus Bellona, those matchups are just like amazing because you're gonna see people just wailing on each other, and it's usually pretty fun to see. And if I see a Raven in my soul lane, I'm very thankful. Ravana does also get picked in the jungle from time to time and ranked as well, so he's right up there with Bellona Osiris. Scylla's going to be S minus for me. I see Scylla's in ranked all the time, and she's kind of hit or miss. If you're not hitting her ults, you're going to be in trouble. But I see so many tryhard Scylla's just like destroying people, getting triple kills is like left and right. Happens all the time, and her early wave clear is not good, but it doesn't matter. It really does not matter too much. You can just kind of play it safe, get your red buff. If they invade your yellow, just get your red buff. Get some farm going, and late game you're just going to be destroying people. Serket is in the, it's either S or S plus. I'm gonna put her in S. Oh, it didn't work. I'll put her in S because she's one of those tricky characters that, you have to be good with her. And again, there are a lot of try-hard ranked players who want to be the best Serket in the world, and they go out there and they make crazy plays. It does happen. So she 100% is a pub stomp character. Just destroys people. She does so much damage with her combo. It's insane. You don't even have to build crit on her anymore, which is even crazier because now she's going out there and just doing like full pen and just insane amount of damage. Don't have to worry about the crit as much. So she's very good. Put in the right hands, she'll go like 20-0. I've seen it happen all the time. Scotty, I think Scotty is another one of those characters that if we're talking about pro play, she's not amazing, but when you talk about ranked, people don't counter Scotty that much, and she does a lot of damage. Her ult is very good. It's a good lockdown tool. She has very strong wave clear, and her team fighting is also not too bad. So, not a bad character. I think A+ makes sense. Sobek, you see Sobek every now and then. I'll put him in A. Actually, I'll put him in A, to be honest. I'd rather have I'm just looking at Bacchus and Fafnir. I'd rather have a Bacchus and a Fafnir on my team than a Sobek, to be quite honest. His wave clear is not amazing. If you're missing Plucks, you're kind of useless. But he does do a lot of damage with his ultimate. Try to get through these last couple gods pretty quickly here. Soul. S minus. Oops. S minus. Definitely. Okay. There we go. S minus character definitely deserves to be in the mid lane. I see very good souls all the time. Wave clear is pretty good. She shreds towers. That's why I love her in the mid lane. Most mages, what you do is you push lane in mid and then you go do something else because your auto attacks are usually not very good, but Soul is the opposite. Soul is one of those characters that can pressure mid, and once she gets pressure, she should keep pressuring because she can get like a 6-minute tower if you don't keep an eye on your mid lane, and that's why she's super good. She gets that 6-minute tower in mid, that allows her to rotate more into team fights, and then she just gets super huge. So that's, I think, why she's really good right now. She has a different playstyle than other mages. For instance, if you're playing Scylla and you're just doing, your auto attacks against the tower are not going to be very good, but a Soul's auto attacks will shred that tower. Wukong gets played quite a bit. I'm going to put him in S minus. He's right up there with Herc. I think him and Herc are definitely equal. We're talking about soul laners. Bellona, Osiris, Raven are like the top 3. Although Raven is still kind of preferential in a ways. And then if those characters are not left, or let's say someone doesn't want to play Ravana, then Herc, Wukong are the 2 ones you want to look for next. At least that's what most people do. He's very safe. It's very hard to kill him, and he's just safe. Like, he can just survive and be a pretty good setup into the mid to late game. Susano's S for sure. Can definitely pub stomp. You see Susano's quite a bit. I see him banned quite a lot as well. So he's definitely up there. I don't have any assassins in S plus tier at the moment. If I were to pick an S plus assassin right now, it would definitely be one of these two. Maybe I would have said Nemesis maybe last patch, but honestly right now, either Susanu or Serket would be S plus. I'm not going to put either of them there because I don't know, it's kind of tough to do. Like I like both of them equally. Maybe they should both be an S plus. Um, I don't know. If you have any opinions on this, please let me know in the comments because I actually find that very tough. Serkan and Susano, I think, could be S plus because they do just destroy in ranked. Sylvanas is not. He's fine. Gets caught out. He gets pressured, but it doesn't matter too much right now. Like the pressure is very good, but you can still kill a Sylvanas very easily. Doesn't have any escape. Has a lot of good setup and the healing is nice. But again, anti-heal will shut him down a little bit. All right, Terra. Terra is going to be the third, I think, Guardian that I prefer over like Khepri and Fafnir. Definitely very strong. The ultimate is amazing in team fights. She has very strong level 3 wave clear, and probably I think I said this in my last tier list for the pro play. She's like the best initiator in the game because she can just CC a huge group of people, which will set up in a huge team fight. Very similar to a Gib ult, but the thing is, Terra can do that without an ult. It is just a root, but she's getting a root like all the time with her abilities, so it's very strong initiation. Again, big circles. It helps to have them. Like it just really helps. Thanatos. I don't see Thanatos much at all anymore. He's fine. Like I don't know. I'll put him in A minus. I really don't see him. He had a big emergence at the beginning of the season, and then people just either got bored with him or they just realized that yeah, he has a good early game, but there are better mid to late game characters out there, and so he just dropped off. Morgan, I don't see the Morgan too much. I think you'll see more of her in the upper leagues because she's very tricky to play. In all of ranked, including gold, including silver, plat, diamonds, I think she's A. She doesn't get picked that much, to be honest, but she's good. Thor, actually, no, I take it back. Thor's going to be my S plus jungler. Thor, I've been seeing almost every game recently, and, they're all, again, he's one of those characters that people try hard. They're like he's like the Rama of assassins. People try very hard to be good with Thor, and a lot of them are good with him. Not only that, but he has so much setup. He has a stun with the ult, a stun with the wall. Sets up so many abilities. You have a raw Thor combo. It's a beautiful thing because every time he uses a wall, you can just use a raw ult, and you're guaranteeing a raw ult like 100% of the time. It's very nice to have. Thoth, I think Thoth is very good. S tier along with Ra. In the mid lane, probably the top two mids that you want to pick in ranked. I see him a pretty good amount, and usually he does pretty well. Just does an insane amount of damage, high mobility, very good wave clear after like level 3. He's very strong. Tier is fine. They just gave him a buff. Less mana. I don't think it affected him too much. He's fine though. If you're a good tier player, you can play him, but he doesn't win too many matchups. That being said, tier is my kryptonite in the solo lane. I am very bad against tier. I don't know why. Uller. Uller doesn't get picked too much. Every now and then you might see a cheesy Uller mid, but honestly it doesn't happen that often, and in the dual lane, he's pretty good, but he's more of a preference pick. Vamana is good. I think, he's definitely not the top solo laner. He's way down the list when you're talking about who you want to play. Vamana's way down on the list. That being said, I think he has one of the best level 2 clears of any warrior, especially with Bluestone. Just pretty much full clear at level 2, which is really nice. So he does a good amount of damage, and he has a very safe escape, but again, anti-heal can shut him down a bit. Vulcan, I see Vulcans all the time in ranked, and he's very hit or miss, of course, because that's just how his kit works, like literally hit or miss. If you're not hitting your ult, if you're not hitting your meatballs, your backfires, you're going to suck. If you're hitting those, you're going to be amazing, and you're probably going to carry. Shivalanke. Shivalanke is not good. I see Shivalanke's quite a bit in ranked. And when I say quite a bit, I mean like fairly often. Every time they're bad. Every single time they're bad. It doesn't matter what league you're in either. Like you can be in a high league. People are still going to pick Shivalanke. They're like, oh, maybe he'll work. And he never works. He's still bad. Bad wave clear. Good late game, but it doesn't matter. Same with Artemis. Doesn't really matter about his late game is just not important. His early game is so bad. Xing Chen. I don't see Xing very often. A minus. You can play him as solo if you want to counter with a magical character. Good ult, good setup, ability, but generally just okay. Amir is fine. You'll see him more in rank than you will in pro play, and more like he's kind of more gold, silvery kind of a character. People just love to pub stomp with him, which he can do. He can carry, but I don't know. He gets caught out more often than not. He really does. Not having an escape does hurt you. It's just an honest, it's brutally honest that if you don't have an escape, you're gonna be in trouble. Zeus is fine. You'll see him in ranked like every now and then, and he can absolutely wreck. He can do like a bunch of damage. Obviously, that's what he's there for. But he can get caught out too if you're not careful. And finally, the last character, Zhang Kui, never really gets picked that much. I'll put him in A minus, maybe B. No, I think he's fine. His team fighting is pretty good. Doesn't get picked very much. A lot of times people will try to do a cheesy solo lane Zhong. Never really goes very well, but I think he can be safe in the mid lane if you play it right. But again, very low pick rate. So this is it. This is my my ranked tier list. Let me actually shrink it a little bit. There you go. It's a little harder to see, but just so you can all see the basic curve of it. It's actually almost a perfect bell curve, which doesn't happen very often with my tier list. But yeah, those are my picks for characters in ranked. Let me know what you think about it if you have your own picks, who you see in ranked a lot, and who you like to play. I want to thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.